Thank you, Tricia. Okay, so last we'll have Jodi Williams come up from the Food Safety Outreach Program, USDA NIFA. Thanks, Jodi.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate the opportunity. I'll talk a little bit about what NIFA does very briefly. This is all going to be very brief, actually. Basically, our role at this, working collaboratively with FDA, is to really support the implementation of FSMA through additional extramural funding to institutions, agencies, state departments of ag. It's a very broad eligibility for the Food Safety Outreach Program. But basically, we're working in collaboration with FDA to support outreach, education, and training to help them implement FSMA. So this is what we look like now. I'll start a little bit about our history. In 2015, we worked to collaboratively develop a program with the Food and Drug Administration based on the FSMA legislation that stated you will work with FDA to establish a competitive education, outreach, and training program, which we did, which doesn't always work well with federal agencies working together. But as a team, we did put together a national coordination center, which was funded by Food and Drug Administration, a Northeast and a North Central Regional Center, which was also funded by FDA, and then a Southern and a Western Region Center, which was funded by USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. That group worked really well together. They had some significant impacts. You saw the Northeast presentation. That is something that happened or is duplicated across all the different regions over the past 3 years. In 2018, so last year, we reestablished the regional centers again, provided some additional funding, and Chris really went over a lot of this, but I'm just going to talk very briefly about what we did. We reestablished a Southern, a Western, a Northeast, and a North Central region. They are all funded under USDA this time, and kind of coordinated across in terms of funding, but still collaborating very closely with FDA as we look to implement and make sure there's no duplication of efforts and making sure it's still very seamless across with our support. As Chris also mentioned, the lead regional center is also funded at University of Florida, working collaboratively with all the other centers to make sure that we communicate, coordinate across the U.S. so that it's not a lot of duplication. That's really what we're trying to avoid, is duplications of effort. Currently, there are about 60 active pilot community outreach and multi-state projects across all 4 regions. Again, we want to make sure all these groups are talking, that everything is collaborative and everyone's working together. That's really the purpose of the lead centers and the regional centers. As you can see, there are about 19 projects in the Southern region, 16 in the Western, 17 in the Northeast, and 8 in the North Central. These are currently active projects. There are projects that have already closed out, and we've already collected all the data and the information from the outcomes and impacts of those programs and projects across those different regions. Some of the things that we want to make sure that we are very critical in helping and assisting the regional centers with is collecting the data from the pilot community outreach and multi-state projects. A lot of you guys are here that are funded under the Food Safety Outreach Program. Many of you reported to the Northeast Center. Some did not, I'm sure. We want to make sure that you're reporting to your regional centers so that we can collect all that information. One of the things that we often get are congressional inquiries. They want to know what's going on with the money. The best way that we can tell them what's going on with the money and the funds is to be able to provide them real numbers, real information, real data. So when we get those, and what we don't want to have to do is every time we get an inquiry, call people and make requests, and because they want the information yesterday. They don't want it 2 weeks from now when you finally get back to us. So if you report it to Liz, or you report it to Elizabeth, or if you report it to Dave in the Western region, or if you report it to Keith in the Southern region, if you report it to Joseph in the North Central region, then they'll have it already. It'll be with us. We'll have a report, and we can just submit it out. And then we get these great numbers, this great amount of data. The information that's in the agenda books that Elizabeth handed out is exactly the type of information that we're looking to collect. That's exactly the type of information that we need you to provide to your regional center. So I can't be more excited about the information that we collected, or more adamant about the fact that we need to make sure we continue to collect that type of data across the centers. This is the information that they need, okay? They want to know how much money you gave out and what you did with that money. How many people did you train? How many novel training strategies did you have? How many modified curricula? What types of add-ons did you develop? What does your audience look like? What are the commodities? Those are the types of things that we need, and we want to make sure that we're collecting that information. You will hear from your regional center project directors when they're asking you to give them that information. Please make sure you're collecting it at the trainings and that you're providing it to them upon request. It's not something that they don't use. It's not something that it makes it past this meeting and past this agenda. It does go to Congress, so we can look to continue to increase the funds so this work can continue over time and grow. Okay, and finally, what everybody really wanted to know about, the 2019 request for applications. I can't give you any information on it, of course, not really. So no need to catch me in a corner. I will let you know that we're kind of midway through the approval process for the program. While the shutdown did slow us down a little bit, we're not going to be like a month behind or anything. This program actually moved up in priority based on the shutdown, so there's some good to it, I guess. We're anticipating a timeline very similar to 2018. We're hoping to push it maybe 15 or 30 days earlier, but it won't really make that much of a difference in terms of due dates and proposal application due dates. There'll be some changes. We're not looking for regional centers, obviously, again this year. There will be some modifications in language, some modifications in terminology, but for the most part, continue to plan and prepare as if it looks a lot like the 2017 request for applications. As I said, there will be some modifications, nothing too strong. You can make quick changes after you've already gotten all your teams together and started to put your collaborations together. I can't really elaborate much more on that, but it is not a complete overhaul. One thing about the eligibility requirements, and I really want to hone in on this, current and/or past awardees, they're not eligible to apply. So everyone here who's been funded through FSOP as a project director, you're not eligible to apply as a project director again. You are eligible to apply as a co-PD, okay? So if you receive an application, and we do go through them, if you receive a proposal and you are currently an awardee, we kind of do a comparison. This year we're declining them. Last year we called and told them, hey, can you get a co-PD that can submit? This year we're declining them. I'll be adamant. We're going to host a webinar. I'll be reinforcing this at the webinar. So please make sure if you're currently awarded, you're going to have to make sure that you get a co-PD that has not been, a PD who has not been awarded as your project director this time if you're looking to collaborate and go in and do some of the same work. Matching. There's been some clarification on the policy for matching. In the past, our non-exempt entities, so our non-governmental organizations, they have been, it's been waived for 1, 2, even 3 years for the matching. Policy clarification has told us that matching will only be waived for non-exempt entities for the first year. So make sure that you have your matching funds in order if you are looking to apply for some of the longer term projects that'll be eligible for next year. Everyone who is here who is working to help promote the program, I know Chelsea helps to promote the program, all of our regional centers help to promote the program. Please make sure you reiterate the point, especially if you're working with the non-governmental organizations, and as you attend your different meetings and talk about the program, that they definitely will have to have matching funds beyond their first year this year. We were able to kind of give folks a little bit of leeway this year and help them get it together for next year, but in the future that won't be an option. You'll need to have it together at the time of not proposal submission, but at the time of award recommendation. Okay, and that is it for me. I think Elizabeth wants us all to come up.